Sven is now 20 years old. 1 year has passed since his meeting with Ragnar and his growing conflict with Earl Einar. During this year, Sven has continued to build his reputation as a warrior and as a leader, but his opportunities within Kaupang have become increasingly limited. Einar continues to exclude Sven from important decisions, continues to limit his participation in raids, continues to view him with suspicion and hostility. The situation has become increasingly difficult for Sven. He is a skilled warrior with a growing following, but he is trapped in a position where he cannot fully utilize his talents and his abilities. Sven is beginning to feel frustrated and constrained by his situation in Kaupang. He understands that if he continues to serve under Einar, his opportunities for advancement and for achieving his ambitions will continue to be limited. During this period, Sven has also continued to develop his relationship with Isla. The two have spent considerable time together, have continued to discuss their dreams and their ambitions, have continued to support each other in their individual pursuits. Isla has become increasingly important to Sven, not just as a romantic interest, but as a trusted advisor and as someone who understands his ambitions and his dreams. Sven also continues to work with Isla's father Erik, learning about commerce and trade, understanding how to build and maintain trading networks, learning about the different goods that are traded and the value that they have in different markets. Through this work with Erik, Sven is beginning to understand that there are multiple paths to power and to wealth, that military power alone is not sufficient to build a lasting empire. Sven's father, Gustav, continues to advise his son on matters of strategy and politics. Gustav recognizes that Sven is at a critical juncture in his life, that the decisions that Sven makes in the coming months will have a significant impact on his future. Gustav encourages Sven to think carefully about his options, to consider the long-term consequences of his decisions, to make choices that will serve his interests in the years to come. During a private conversation with his father, Sven expresses his frustration with his situation in Kaupang. Sven tells Gustav that he feels trapped, that he is unable to fully utilize his talents and his abilities, that his opportunities for advancement are being systematically limited by Earl Einar. Sven asks his father for advice about what he should do. Gustav listens carefully to his son's concerns. Gustav understands that Sven is at a critical decision point, and he wants to help his son make the right choice. Gustav tells Sven that he has two basic options. First, he could remain in Kaupang, could continue to serve under Einar, could hope that eventually Einar will die or will step down, and that Sven will be able to take over his position. Second, he could leave Kaupang, could establish himself as an independent leader, could pursue his own ambitions outside of Kaupang. Gustav explains to Sven that the first option is the safer choice, but it is also the more uncertain choice. If Sven remains in Kaupang and continues to serve under Einar, he will be limiting his own opportunities, will be allowing Einar to control his future. There is no guarantee that Einar will ever step down, or that Sven will ever be able to take over his position. In fact, it is quite possible that Einar will eventually decide to eliminate Sven as a threat, either by exiling him from Kaupang or by having him killed. The second option is the more dangerous choice, but it is also the more promising choice. If Sven leaves Kaupang and establishes himself as an independent leader, he will be taking control of his own destiny, will be pursuing his own ambitions, will be creating opportunities for himself that would not be available to him if he remained in Kaupang. However, this choice will also require Sven to take significant risks, to gather resources and followers, to establish himself in a new territory or in a new venture. Gustav tells Sven that he believes the second option is the better choice for him. Gustav believes that Sven has the intelligence, the skill, and the determination necessary to succeed as an independent leader. Gustav encourages Sven to pursue his ambitions, to leave Kaupang if necessary, to establish himself as a leader in his own right. However, Gustav also warns Sven that if he chooses to leave Kaupang and to establish himself as an independent leader, he must do so carefully and strategically. Sven must gather his followers gradually, must prepare for his departure carefully, must ensure that he has the resources and the support necessary to succeed. Sven must also be aware that Einar may view his departure as a threat and may attempt to prevent him from leaving or may attempt to pursue him after he has left. Sven takes his father's advice seriously. He begins to think carefully about what he wants to achieve in his life, about what kind of leader he wants to become, about what kind of legacy he wants to leave behind. Sven begins to understand that his greatest opportunities lie not in Kaupang, but in pursuing his own ambitions, in establishing himself as an independent leader, in eventually leading expeditions to England and building a lasting empire. Sven also discusses his situation with Isla. Isla is supportive of Sven's ambitions, but she is also concerned about the risks that he will be taking. Isla tells Sven that she believes in him, that she believes he has the potential to become a great leader, that she will support him in whatever decisions he makes. Isla also suggests that if Sven is going to pursue his own ambitions, he should think carefully about how to do so in a way that combines military power with commercial success. Isla suggests that Sven should work with her father, Erik, to establish trading networks and to accumulate wealth through commerce, in addition to the wealth that he accumulates through raiding. Isla points out that such an approach would create a more stable and more sustainable power base than raiding alone. Sven is intrigued by Isla's suggestions. He begins to think about the possibility of leading an expedition to England that would combine military conquest with commercial development. He begins to imagine establishing settlements in England, building trade networks, accumulating wealth through multiple means, creating an empire that would be based on both military power and commercial success. As Sven thinks about these possibilities, he begins to see a clear path forward. He understands that his greatest opportunities lie in pursuing his own ambitions, in establishing himself as an independent leader, in eventually leading expeditions to England and building a lasting empire. Sven makes the decision to leave Kaupang and to pursue his own path. However, Sven is also aware that he cannot simply leave Kaupang immediately. He needs to gather followers, to gather resources, to prepare for his departure carefully. Sven begins to take steps to prepare for his departure from Kaupang. First, Sven begins to gather a group of loyal followers who are willing to leave Kaupang with him and to pursue his ambitions. Sven speaks with his most trusted warriors, the men who have followed him on raids, the men who respect him and who are willing to support him. Sven tells them about his plans to leave Kaupang and to establish himself as an independent leader. Many of these warriors are excited by the prospect of following Sven on his own expeditions, and they agree to join him. Second, Sven begins to gather resources for his expedition. He works with Isla and with her father Erik to understand what resources will be needed for a major expedition to England. Sven begins to accumulate weapons, supplies, and other resources that will be necessary for his expedition. Third, Sven begins to gather information about England and about the opportunities that exist there. He speaks with merchants who have traveled to England, with warriors who have participated in raids on England, with anyone who has knowledge about England and about the opportunities that exist there. Sven begins to develop a detailed plan for his expedition to England. Fourth, Sven begins to prepare his followers for the possibility of leaving Kaupang. He trains them. He prepares them for the challenges that they will face. He builds their confidence and their loyalty. Sven also begins to build relationships with other leaders who might be willing to support his expedition or who might be willing to work with him in the future. During this period, Sven also begins to think about his relationship with Earl Einar. Sven understands that Einar will not be happy about his plans to leave Kaupang and to establish himself as an independent leader. Sven is aware that Einar may attempt to prevent him from leaving or may attempt to pursue him after he has left. Sven begins to think about how to handle this situation. Sven decides that the best approach is to be honest with Einar about his intentions. Sven arranges a meeting with Einar and tells the Earl about his plans to lead his own expedition to England. Sven explains to Einar that he believes his greatest opportunities lie in pursuing his own ambitions, that he believes he has the potential to become a great leader, that he wants to establish himself as an independent leader rather than continuing to serve under Einar. Einar is not happy about Sven's plans. Einar tells Sven that he views this as a betrayal, that Sven is ungrateful for the opportunities that Einar has given him, that Sven is making a mistake by leaving Kaupang. Einar warns Sven that if he leaves Kaupang, he will be leaving behind a secure position and a guaranteed future, and that he may not be able to succeed as an independent leader. However, Einar also recognizes that he cannot prevent Sven from leaving. Einar is aware that Sven has significant support among the warriors of Kaupang, and that attempting to prevent Sven from leaving could provoke a rebellion. Einar decides to let Sven leave, but he also makes it clear that Sven will no longer be welcome in Kaupang, that Sven will no longer have Einar's support or protection. Sven accepts this outcome. He understands that leaving Kaupang means leaving behind his home, his family, his familiar surroundings. But he also understands that this is the price he must pay if he is going to pursue his ambitions and establish himself as an independent leader. As Sven prepares for his departure from Kaupang, he spends time with his family. He speaks with his mother Astrid, who is sad to see her son leaving, but who is also proud of his ambitions and his courage. He speaks with his sister Ingrid, who is excited about his plans and who tells him that she believes in him. He speaks with his father Gustav, who gives him final advice about leadership and about the challenges that lie ahead. Sven also spends time with Ayla. Ayla is sad to see Sven leaving, but she is also supportive of his ambitions. Ayla tells Sven that she believes in him, that she believes he will succeed, that she will wait for him, and that she will support him in his endeavors. Ayla also tells Sven that she hopes that one day, when he has established himself as a successful leader, he will return to Kaupang and that they will be able to build a life together. Sven is moved by Ayla's support and her faith in him. He promises Ayla that he will return to her, that he will establish himself as a successful leader, that they will eventually build a life together. Sven also promises Ayla that he will think of her while he is away, that he will carry her memory with him, that she will be a source of inspiration and motivation for him as he pursues his ambitions. As episode 10 comes to a close, Sven is preparing to leave Kaupang. He is 20 years old, a skilled warrior with a growing following, a man with significant ambitions and significant potential. He has made the decision to pursue his own path, to establish himself as an independent leader, to pursue his ambitions outside of Kaupang. Sven is aware that the road ahead will be difficult and challenging. He is aware that he will face opposition from Einar and from others who view him as a threat. He is aware that he may fail, that his expedition to England may not succeed, that he may not be able to establish himself as a successful leader. However, Sven is also confident that he has made the right choice. He is confident that he has the intelligence, the skill, and the determination necessary to succeed as an independent leader. He is confident that with the support of his loyal followers, with the mentorship of his father Gustav, with the support of Ayla and her family, he will eventually be able to achieve his ambitions and establish himself as one of the greatest leaders of his generation. The saga of Sven Gustafsson is entering a new phase, one in which Sven will pursue his own ambitions, one in which he will establish himself as an independent leader, one in which he will begin to build the empire that he has always dreamed of creating. Sven is leaving Kaupang behind, but he is carrying with him the love and support of his family, the loyalty of his followers, the inspiration of Ayla, and the confidence that he will succeed in achieving his greatest ambitions. Before Sven leaves Kaupang, he also takes time to say goodbye to some of the other people who have been important in his life. He visits the harbor where he first watched the Viking ships arrive when he was a young boy, remembering the dreams that he had then about adventure and conquest. He walks through the streets of Kaupang, remembering the places where he has trained, the places where he has celebrated victories, the places where he has learned important lessons about life and about leadership. Sven also takes time to reflect on his journey so far. He thinks about how far he has come from being a simple farmer's son to becoming a skilled warrior with a significant following. He thinks about the challenges that he has overcome, the obstacles that he has faced, the lessons that he has learned. Sven is grateful for the opportunities that he has had, grateful for the people who have supported him, grateful for the experiences that have shaped him into the man that he has become. Sven's followers also prepare for the departure from Kaupang. These men have chosen to follow Sven on his expedition to England, have chosen to leave behind their homes and their families, have chosen to pursue uncertain futures in pursuit of Sven's ambitions. These men are excited about the prospect of adventure, about the prospect of participating in raids on England, about the prospect of establishing settlements and building wealth in a new land. However, these men are also aware of the risks that they are taking. They understand that they may not succeed, that their expedition to England may fail, that they may not return to Kaupang alive. But they are willing to take these risks because they believe in Sven, because they believe that he has the potential to become a great leader, because they are excited about the prospect of participating in something great and significant. Sven also begins to think about the practical details of his expedition. He needs to gather ships, supplies, weapons, and other resources that will be necessary for the journey to England and for the raids that he plans to conduct there. Sven works with Isla and with her father Erik to gather these resources. Erik, recognizing the potential for commercial success in Sven's expedition, agrees to provide some of the resources that Sven needs in exchange for a share of the wealth that Sven accumulates through his raids and through his commercial ventures. Sven also begins to think about the route that he will take to England. He speaks with merchants and with other warriors who have traveled to England, learning about the different routes that are available, learning about the dangers and the challenges that he will face on the journey. Sven begins to develop a detailed plan for his voyage to England, taking into account the season, the weather, the currents, and other factors that will affect his journey. As the time for Sven's departure approaches, there is a sense of anticipation and excitement in Kaupang. Everyone knows that Sven is planning to leave. Everyone knows that he is planning to lead an expedition to England. Some people are excited about his plans, believing that he will succeed and that he will bring wealth and glory to Kaupang. Others are skeptical, believing that Sven is making a mistake, that he will fail, that he will not be able to succeed as an independent leader. Sven is aware of these different opinions, but he is not discouraged by the skepticism. Sven is confident in his abilities, confident that he has the potential to succeed, confident that he will eventually return to Kaupang as a successful and respected leader. Finally, the day arrives for Sven's departure from Kaupang. Sven gathers his followers, gathers his ships, gathers his supplies and his weapons. He says goodbye to his family, to Isla, to the people who have been important in his life. He looks back at Kaupang one last time, remembering the place where he was born, the place where he grew up, the place where he became a warrior and a leader. Then, Sven turns his face toward the sea, toward England, toward the future that awaits him. He boards his ship, takes command of his fleet, and sets sail for England. Sven is leaving behind everything that he has known, everything that he has been, in pursuit of his ambitions and his dreams. He is confident that he will succeed, confident that he will establish himself as a great leader, confident that he will eventually return to Kaupang as a successful and respected man. As episode 10 comes to a close, Sven is no longer in Kaupang. He is on the sea, leading his fleet toward England, pursuing his ambitions, pursuing his dreams. The saga of Sven Gustafsson is entering a new phase, one in which he will pursue his own ambitions, one in which he will establish himself as an independent leader, one in which he will begin to build the empire that he has always dreamed of creating. Sven's choice to leave Kaupang and to pursue his own ambitions is a defining moment in his life. This choice will determine the course of his future, will determine whether he succeeds or fails, will determine whether he becomes a great leader or whether he fades into obscurity. But Sven is confident that he has made the right choice, confident that he will succeed, confident that he will eventually achieve his greatest ambitions and establish himself as one of the greatest leaders of his generation.